Just had a horrifying thought, Alice. Horrifying thought.
Yeah.
You know, our schedule has been absolutely crazy packed,
Yeah.
and we've been to a lot of social situations where I think, you know, we talk to people and sometimes we get along real well. We never don't get along with anybody,
Right.
but sometimes there are times when, for instance, recently I was at a sports thing with a guy, and we were talking about whatever music and bands or whatever, some a kid sports thing. And I was sitting in place A, and eventually he was sitting in place B.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking for a while, this and that, and like music from the 90s, etc. And I had told him that I didn't like Dave Matthews, and I said, and I can't believe, like, I despise Dave Matthews so much. I remember being introduced to Dave Matthews in the early 90s. But I could have said, this band is awesome. And I listened to his 187 jazz chords per minute, and I thought, this effing sucks. This is not songs. This is music. This is somebody showing me that he knows what a C minor sharp 7 suspended fourth is. Oh, it's terrible. It makes me angry and whatever. And I was thinking, like, I would hate to sit somewhere and have somebody tell me, like my friend did, 30 years ago, oh, this is great. Like if I just ran into somebody at a bar and they said, have you heard of Dave Matthews? Oh, Dave Matthews Band is great. And he started playing all the jazz chords to me, like if we had cell phones back there. And I would be like, I can't believe I'm stuck with this person. Oh, I already know. You've told me how much you love Dave Matthews, that I know you suck. That you're not, maybe you don't suck. You probably make more than me. Probably you definitely have a hotter wife than me. I understand. But you at some point, but
how did I get dragged into this?
But like I couldn't imagine, like that would be terrible. It's like when somebody said something, immediately, okay, you ain't for me. I'm not for you. This is not good.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll come with somebody who likes a dry chicken sandwich. Or when I worked as the receptionist at Entercom, we used to have Cupcake Day, and my job was to give the Cupcake Day announcement, which I would give, but I would also contemplate just blowing my head off beforehand because I was 31 and making the Cupcake Day announcement. Remember this kid came in and he wiped off the frosting in his cupcake and he said, it was way too rich. And I thought, you and I never will get along. Ever get along. Ever. So anyway, I finished telling this guy at the sports event
that you hate Dave Matthews.
That I hate Dave Matthews. And I told him I have to go bring another kid to another thing and I'll be back. He's in seat A. I was in seat B.
Okay.
I go drop the other kid at the other sports event. I come back. He's in seat A. His gym bag is in seat B.
Oh.
Yes.
So maybe to him, anybody who says they hate Dave Matthews is that person that they know they're never going to get along.
Exactly. He's like, I can't believe he doesn't like this. There's over 170 chords per minute in the songs. I wouldn't like that. And he plays all the chords furiously with his left hand on the guitar and he goes, and so that brings
How come
me.
your Dave Matthews impression is the same as your Eddie Vedder impression?
No, Eddie is.
Sounds the same.
Dave Matthews is. The 90s was a silly place house. So that brings me to Charlie Baker, who I freaking guarantee you, even at his age, and Charlie's older than me, so he's in his 60s, right? I guarantee you he goes to Dave Matthews' concerts at Fenway. How more perfectly terrible in the world could you be? Going to any concert at Fenway and going to Dave Matthews at Fenway.
I feel like you've invented someone in your head to be mad at.
No. So Charlie Baker today is asked, because he runs the NCAA, or NAAC, whatever the one that does college sports is, and he's asked about why he has.
That's NCAA.
Yeah, he's asked about why he's allowing trans men play against women, and the answer is just so perfect. Charlie Baker. I forgot for a moment how terrible he was at
most popular governor in America.
Yeah, of course, which is why he got the gig. I forgot for a moment how terrible he was. I mean,
your guidelines say
that's Josh Hawley going after him. Remember during COVID, Charlie saying, I've had enough. Yep, I've had just about enough of this. My patience is running thin. Remember what they did in Canada. Remember what happened in Canada. He was so weak and so pathetic and such a bureaucratic project manager. I understand that he had to contort himself to be accepted in Massachusetts, and to be a company man was the way to do that, especially with the establishment and this and that. But this line of questioning, it's like you see, Charlie, just quit, just do something else. Is Josh Hawley going after him?
Have guidelines that instruct them what the best practices are, and your guidelines say that biological men can go in and use the women's locker rooms if they want to. What the women want has nothing to do with it. They're not mentioned in here at all. Correct? Correct. It's right here. You just reaffirmed them in May of this year. I've got them. I'm reading them. I've got them off your website.
I believe our guidelines give people optionality with respect to how they choose to use their facilities. And many
optionality. What it says is transgenders.
You're Charlie Baker.
Optionality.
You've got millions in the bank. You've got millions in the bank. Just make a stand for the thing that you know it is true. Rather than come out with a bureaucratic, Ivy League, over-degreed word like optionality.
But didn't he do the bathroom bills in Massachusetts too?
I think, didn't he? Okay, so I think he
They
allowed
originally
himself
did a public accommodations one that didn't include bathrooms and locker rooms. I remember that. But then I think they did expand it. I don't think he vetoed it when they expanded it to bathrooms and locker rooms.
I think he did one of these things where he could vote against it. No, where he could oppose it, but vote. He did a switcheroo thing where he could not support it, but he could be overridden. Maybe that's what he did. So they
Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker.
Okay, maybe right.
Signed a bill into law Friday. This is 2016, guaranteeing transgender people can use restrooms and locker rooms that correspond with their gender identities. In signing the bill, he came full circle from his previous opposition to the proposal, which he derided as a bathroom bill during his unsuccessful 2010 campaign. That's how he learned that he was in Massachusetts.
To be a Democrat, be a Democrat.
Right.
Right. So it's just like it's so, and it reminds me of everything that we've got. Let me play more of Charlie Baker before I move on here, because it reminds me of everything that's going on in D.C. and all of these states now with drones and orbs and all these other things, which now we know. The latest thing is, yes, they're Chinese hostile adversarial forces looking at our defenses.
Student athletes will be able to use the locker room, shower, and toilet in accordance with their gender identity. That means men will be able to use the women's locker rooms. And as Riley Gaines and others have testified before this committee, that means if a man, a biological man, wants to use their locker room, they just have to accept it. Or else the women have to go somewhere else. They've got to go find an alternative. Why is that fair?
We told the local folks who've hosted our tournaments they need to create accommodations for the people who are playing.
So it's the feds on the one hand, it's the locals on the other hand. The only person who doesn't seem to bear any responsibility in this is you and the NCAA, who are the governing body. And your testimony here today is you're not even subject to Title IX. Mr. Baker, I can't tell you how disappointed this makes me, but not just disappointed, frankly, infuriated for the student athletes who are suffering because of your policies, and you won't even defend them. You won't even take responsibility. It's outrageous. It's totally outrageous.
And it goes out on like that. But for him to say, we have to defer to the authorities here, that was precisely COVID, too. We're deferring to the guidance given to us by the CDC and by the National Institutes of Health. We're deferring to their guidance on the best measures for us to take so we can... It's such lack of leadership. Middle management talk. It sucks. It sucks. I would rather have Trump give away the ports to the port thug, Daggert, and... say, yeah, no, we can't have mechanization. What is it? Automation of these ports because, that we need humans down there who are doing the jobs who can make sure. I would rather him just sell me out to my face than do it like this. With Trump, I understand what he's doing. He's buying the union vote. He's brought them into.
He wants Harold Daggett out. knocking people around on his behalf. So
well, right. And so I like that. I like
it's
it more.
Totally transactional.
It is absolutely transactional, and I'll take that. But the way that the guys like Charlie Baker, who I like just fine as a person, nothing gives a shit. That kind of be a friend to everybody is the most dangerous kind of person in the world. Because Charlie was out there telling people that you need to. He was letting people riot and destroy cop cars and light them on fire. He let it happen. He told people to go out there and do what you need to do it safely. He thanked them for being safe, and they weren't safe.
Right.
What is this? If you saw the same people do the same thing after a Bruins championship, they're getting hauled in. But no. But it just goes to what we're talking about with all these people who aren't doing anything about the drones, and they have nothing good to say. They have Mayorkas, how he's been doing his same ad block. Fuck you. God. Oh. Sorry. I'll find out for later. There we go. And they're just such terrible squishes. And all of them are inside Beltway guys, all making sure that they still have a job. They don't really want to say anything, Even guys, the Aurora police chief now is blasting people saying, we need to have law and order because the gangs are taking over. All those wusses 2 months ago before the election were not piping up. They were saying this is highly overblown. The people in the other place where they're eating cats, eating the dogs, this is highly overblown.
Oh, that was PolitiFact's lie of the year, the eating the cats. Right. So they've decided, even though it hasn't been quote unquote debunked at all. Just because you haven't literally found caught somebody in the act and have them on video eating a cat doesn't mean it didn't happen. And as we saw just last week, we had John Featherston telling us that he had people asking for cat stew to eat in the migrant shelter that he was managing here in Massachusetts. So, I mean...
Well, we can't verify what John Featherston said, is what the news will tell you, if they even look into that direction.
No, they're going to run away from it all day long, even though it's been written up in Fox News, The Main Wire, on Howie Carr, on our show, on Jerry Callahan. They just don't care. If you put your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening, then when Trump says it's happening, you can call it a lie. I mean, also, those Aurora, like you were saying, the Aurora, Colorado complexes where they've arrested 14 people now who are in these Venezuelan gangs, where what's her name told JD Vance, it's just a few apartment complexes. Come on. We just let Venezuelan gangs take over. How many apartment complexes is allowed now? I don't know. I mean, but yeah, they refuse to take a stand for anything. And I don't know. It was interesting because I talked today on John Featherston's TV show with him and Jess Machado, who she's a reporter at the Fall River Reporter, and she's doing a story on this thing. Shoot, I'm gonna lose the name of it. But anyway, they're a mortgage help company that is allowed to help people in Massachusetts if they've fallen behind on their mortgage and they're going to default and lose their home. You can go to them, and essentially what they do is they buy your home and you make payments to them to save your mortgage. Okay. But they're a very extremely predatory lender, and if you ever sell your house, then you have to pay them off of any increase of equity.
Yeah, it's not too good to be true.
So they're making a ton of money. They've been given this ability to do this in Massachusetts, and the CEO of it is a huge Maura Healey donor.
Of course.
And they're big buddies, and she makes millions of dollars off the backs of people in Massachusetts who are losing their homes while we're in a housing crisis, while we're paying to put up migrants in hotels. And they're making money off it. It's incredible because they're friends with Maura Healey. And that's what this entire make good type of politics is it's you hopefully you're friends with Charlie Baker, hopefully you're friends with Maura Healey, because they're never going to do anything for regular people. You want Charlie Baker to take a stand on bathroom rules for trans? Oh, no. That is way too controversial. He is not going to take a stand on that. He's going to do whichever way the wind is blowing, whichever way his rich friends tell him is the way we're going. That's the way he's going to go.
No, absolutely.
It's really just an embarrassment because it has nothing to do with representing people.
No.
It's the most corporatist, bizarre way to run your government that exists in the world. But that's how Massachusetts is run, and that's how, like, when we send Massachusetts people up to Washington, D.C., that's how they run things too.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And like look even with the Virginia, with one of our cars, it's being driven all over the South right now, and garnering speeding tickets. We sold a car a few years ago, and somehow
Blue Hub, that's the name, Blue Hub Capital.
Right. We sold a car in like 4 years ago, and including like did all the things we were supposed to do, but somehow now the car it was totaled, but now it's alive again, and it's in Virginia getting tickets, and somehow their people, the cops down there, wherever, is that Virginia? Whatever it is?
Maryland
are, we said that car, we're getting like invoices from you. We don't own that car anymore.
Yeah.
We sold it. We have the title. We have everything. And the Maryland people say, yeah, it's on you. Like, F you.
Yeah,
F
no,
you.
I like sent them the bill of sale, the registration, like all this stuff. And they're like, you have to report it stolen. Like, I sent them literally the canceled registration and the bill of sale. And they're like, no, you have to report it stolen. You have to send us a police report. I'm like, it wasn't stolen from me. Like, I didn't even own the car anymore. But I'm like the last owner who had it registered because we sold it for scrap. Right. So, like, they're sending me tickets. Like, that's because they can find me, Yeah, no, the government, like, if you expect the government to work for people, like, you obviously haven't interacted with the government enough.
No, I mean, there are some good ones, some good advocates who will get things done for you. Mm-hmm. But generally, these are sticks in the mud, just to empty bureaucrats. They can give a flying F. I am so, I saw it myself when the big dig ice crashed onto my car and effed up my car, and I had a witness, etc., to see it, and they blew me off, slow walked, said we'll look into it. You couldn't get anybody in the Department of Transportation on the phone, whatever. I filed an official thing. I had my witness, whatever. They told me, then I get this form thing saying we did an investigation and we found that we're not liable for any of the damages. Like, okay, well, good. Right. It's a good way to radicalize somebody in your state. And like,
well, right, but now, I mean, and that's, a big dig tunnel. They literally have killed people because the tunnel's so badly put together, and it's incredible. There was a thread recently because one of the tunnels flooded because of a failed drain, and so obviously the Massachusetts politicians, what did they blame for the flooded tunnel?
Climate, obviously.
Yeah, the climate. Even though this was like not a rare storm, it was like 2 inches of rain, and it was not impressive at all in any way, and this wasn't like some record-breaking amount of rainfall, but it's just they've done such a terrible job with everything they've ever done, and like all the blue states do this. I mean, California's high-speed rail project is possibly like the biggest debacle in the history of public infrastructure projects.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. How many billions? And it's just like stalled.
It's like it's over 100 billion, I think now. It was supposed to be like 30 billion and done already. And they're like, they haven't even put down any track yet at all. And they're like over 100 billion in. It's really amazing. So, I think that we need massive shakeups in government.
Totally.
And I think that that's what a lot of people are hopeful for when it comes to like Elon coming in here.
Yes.
So, I hope, I know he's not gonna come in here and like change the Massachusetts government, but if you create a new culture of government, I think you can remove red tape and allow like private companies to get things done that the government's going to stand in the way of. So I'm personally like really hopeful for the future, and this is why they're all going after Elon, right? This is why Elizabeth Warren is demanding that Trump do some kind of like ethics thing with Elon. Have you seen this stuff?
Yeah, they're going after him.
They want Elizabeth Warren sent a letter to Trump to establish a conflict of interest rules for Elon Musk, given that he is a top advisor. In response, Trump's team called her Pocahontas and said that Warren is a career politician whose societal impact is 1/10/24 of Elon's.
She should only be called Pocahontas going forward, ever by anybody. Nobody should call her anything but that. She is somebody who is a clown and should be ostracized and made fun of forever.
So
after
Elon
what she
replied
did,
to
what she
this.
did is vicious. She should never be called. And when somebody says, "How dare you use Native American plight?" F you. This psycho chick did, and she should. We need to learn. You know what worked? Groomers worked. It was mostly disingenuous and. But it stuck, and they hated it, and there's a kernel of truth in there. That means you're onto something. Let's use it. Use it.
Right. And so Elon replied to that and said that Trump was being generous because her societal impact is actually negative, which is true. The entire societal impact of government in general is negative. It's always negative. By the way, I was right about the drones. Schumer has a bill now. They want more authority to go after drones. It gives more power to the FBI. It gives more power to the DOD. It gives more power to the DHS. So if you ever think that they're actually worried about Trump taking too much power and that they're serious about democracy being at risk, take a look at the bill they are putting forward from blue state senators to give all those departments that Trump is about to be in charge of more power. They absolutely are not concerned about Trump being a dictator. They are the most disingenuous MFs walking the earth. They only want the government to have more power. They don't care who's running it. They want it to have more power because they'll get richer and they'll do better. And they don't care if it's off your back. They don't. Their friends will get richer. They'll get richer. The government will be more powerful. Your life will get worse. You'll be mired down in red tape. You're going to get audited by the IRS. And they don't care about you. That's the end of it. I don't know. I found this Big Dig in Boston thread from this guy writing about it and about how big a problem that the
flooding,
the boondoggle was. So he talks about the fact that, the tunnel collapsed and killed somebody in 98. And then he says that the tunnel was bringing on 10 to 12 gallons of water a minute and needed shoring up less than 5 years after completion. Closures persist to this day, less than 15 years after the completion of the project due to maintenance. The maintenance is actually repairs due to the tunnel flooding or pieces of the tunnel falling apart or other issues. That leads us to the comedy of errors that occurred this week when a moderate storm swung through Boston, dropped less than 3 inches of rain, and is not even in the top 40 storms of all time, but the tunnel flooded with 130,000 gallons of water. Mayor Michelle Wu immediately blamed climate change and how drainage systems in the city were meant to handle rains from 50 to 100 years ago.
Perfect example, by the way.
He says, how is that an issue for 50 to 100 years ago when the tunnel was just completed 15 years ago? And how is it possible that a city drainage system isn't prepared for a once every 5-year storm? But Mayor Wu doesn't care about climate change. She cares about deflecting blame. MassDOT concluded that the flooding was caused by clogged drainage. The drainage system wasn't meant to handle fallen branches and leaves, which has been a problem in Boston for decades because the government doesn't ever solve a problem. Of course, Boston has a ton of trees in it that fall down every year because of the climate that we live in. But the city has never bothered to build a drainage system that prevents flooding. And this guy writes, having worked and lived in Boston for the better part of 3 decades, it's a yearly occurrence that Boston floods, and it's a yearly occurrence that the mayors blame everything else. The O'Neill Tunnel represents everything wrong with American government and getting anything done. The best contractors weren't hired. The government provided no oversight, and the entire project was delayed due to graft from contractors and unions. It's never worked the way people hoped. It's falling apart. You should care because it shows how politicians are never transparent about their failures. Their lack of transparency means they gaslight people with doom and gloom about climate change when in fact the problem is their failures. Remember this tunnel the next time a politician tells you the government can do things better.
Right. And when they looked at the Big Dig, they weren't looking at making traffic better. They were looking at the billions of dollars of opportunity that they had.
Yeah. My friends will get rich. I'll get rich. That's just like what they thought, it would be like to have the Olympics in Boston. When they were going to have that too.
Totally.
Oh, I'm going to get so rich. My contractor friends are going to get so rich. Like not like the literal small business contractors, but like the big contractors that run these big projects. My buddies are going to get rich. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get to be on TV at the Olympics opening ceremony. It's going to be so great. And not a thought. And I actually personally kind of think it would have been cool to have the 2024 Olympics in Boston if we didn't live in the city that would do the worst job at this on planet Earth.
Oh, totally. But also going back, by the way, to the drones. And this is related, but okay. So the drones, is there a mothership? No, there's not a mothership. Is the Chinese looking at stuff? No, we don't think it is. This is what it is. No, we don't think it is. It's none of these things, says one hand. At the same time, we absolutely need sweeping changes. That means a big new bureaucracy, stuff for my friends, etc. Like you were saying.
We don't know what it is. It's definitely not dangerous, but we know that we definitely need more government power to handle it.
Right. Which brings me to this. This is Dick Durbin today asking Charlie Baker a question.
How many athletes are there in the United States in NCAA schools?
510,000.
How many transgender athletes are you aware of?
Less than 10.
Less than 10
Yep.
out of 510,000?
Yep.
Okay, then why did you need all the accommodations made for all the transgender athletes there were? How come they have all the power in the world? How come these less than 10 effing freaks get to look at the chicks naked in the locker room?
Yeah,
Why
they're presumably like 250,000 naked chicks. They get to see them all because that's just how this goes.
Why then? You're the one who told us that these dudes need to be in the locker rooms. They need to be. But there's less than 10. Who cares if 10 pervert psychos need to be in the locker room? That's how this works. That's how this works. You see, we need to have it because they're going to harm themselves. And 1 out of 4 will kill themselves. Trevor Project, you see? How many are there? Well, there's less than 10. You want to take that away? There's only less than 10. Why are you making a big thing out of it? Like, F you.
Right.
It's like, okay, there's less than 10, which means there are 500,000 aggrieved girls. Now, I think less than 10, I think 500,000 is greater than, that's Alligator Eats It, right? Greater than less than 10. But it was never about giving a crap about accommodating girls or anything like that. It's about working with this special interest because the freaking rainbow groups are good mobilizers and scare the hell out of people and can petrify call centers, etc. That these people want them in the big tent, and so that's what we've got. So yes, so that's in order for them to stay in power. Yes, some dude gets to watch your daughter's breasts. That's they do that. I mean, they're the Title IX ones because they're protecting women. Because those less than 10 are also women. Okay. So tell your hater daughter to shut up. Like, all these people are just freaking terrible. Just freaking terrible. It's amazing. And by the way, these people are going around, like, lecturing us, Bernie Sanders lecturing us and saying, well, I mean, nobody should be shot in the back and killed, in theory. But the healthcare people... Then he also said, look at the big housing market people, too. And he also said, look at the big bankers, too. Other than all of the CEOs of all of the companies. So, by the way, Alice, this guy deserved to be... Brian Thompson, according to the left, deserved to be shot because he's an evil person, because he's a CEO of a healthcare place. Doesn't that mean that all CEOs everywhere need to be shot? Isn't that what they're saying?
I guess
Because we don't know anything about Brian Thompson. Nobody does.
Right.
So the next person who fills that job, immediately they need to be shot. Because you're not allowed to have that job. Because it makes you evil.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. We can't have any more CEOs. We have to rebrand all the CEOs, call them entry-level VPs or something. It's just... How are you, Alice?
I am good. Do you want to switch gears a little bit?
I'd like to switch gears.
I have a sort of a marriage story that is making the rounds. It's from a group on Reddit called FIRE, FIRE, which is what's it called? Fixed income retire early. Fixed income retire early. So the idea of the FIRE life strategy is to build up enough money early in your life so that you can retire early and live off your retirement money for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy writes this on the Reddit, his issue that he's having in his marriage due to his fixed income retire early life strategy. I'm a 41-year-old man, $2 million liquid, $650K retirement, and I get a $75K a year royalty from a business I sold. Recently retired. Wife is a school teacher, good for healthcare. I make $125K a year in income off my liquid assets. since November began, it's cold and dark early. So a lot of what I do Monday through Friday while she's at work is I play GTA on THC edibles because there's nothing else to do where I live this time of year. Wife came home early today and I'm stoned in the middle of a conversation with my GTA online friends. She told me I'm becoming a loser, but this is me during the day while she works. I admit it's immature, but we don't have kids and I just want to chill after working a stressful job for 15 years.
I love that. He's supposed to chill.
So what's your verdict?
So how old is he?
41.
Okay.
And he worked hard for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So now he has $2 million tucked away in the bank, plus a $650K retirement account, and he makes $75K a year from a business he sold. So, and then he makes $125K a year off his $2 million, which is probably like bonds or something, right? And then, so he's making $200,000 a year without working.
Yes.
They're getting healthcare from her while she goes to work. And he spends all his time playing video games and doing weed.
Other than the weed, I'm with this guy, and I want to be your friend if you're available.
I agree with his wife. I think that he's becoming a loser. Like, what's the point of being alive? Like, what? I don't understand. Like, what?
Well, I don't. The being 41 and hanging around, just getting high and playing video games is. I mean, that shows a certain life force bulb dimming and going out.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, yeah, like he's not a loser in the sense that he does have this money, but I don't understand. You socked up all this money just so you can play Grand Theft Auto?
I guess so.
I mean, like, that seems terrible to me. I'd be mad.
Yeah, I mean, he's still providing in a way, though.
I mean, he is still providing in a way, but like,
But yeah, you would want. I mean, it matters. I mean, women. You would think that you would want a guy who's got a vision. You know, who's got like, who's at least aiming for something up there to do. You know, he could unload. You know. He could launch several overburdensome and non-ROI fulfilling podcasts. He could, you know, he could do
go on walks.
He could go on walks.
Grow a beard. The options are endless.
He could be a low-level shoplifter at times. You know, I mean, there are things to aspire to. Absolutely. The low-level hoarder, illegal dumper of...
But it would bother me if I was going out to work every day and I came home to a 41-year-old supposedly man high on edibles and playing video games.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be fine for him if that's what he wants to do with his life, but I would not want to be his wife, that's for sure.
Well, but that said, hold on.
Okay.
It is... water finds its level, Alice. Is that how it goes? That's right. And like with you, I've gotten away with everything I can. And you're still in. Like barely by a thread sometimes. And you know, and like every time I see you like looking out the window longing for like a proper partner and a proper life, etc. You know, I'll wash a dish or two. You know, I know. But no, women. I don't know. It's women who are the problem, because women will allow this stuff to happen, and they'll just take it. But that to have your thing be like Grand Theft Auto. That's a tough one, because you are really powering down and like saying, I have no intellectual curiosity anymore. And even that, my intellectual curiosity, I'm not even going to be my best at Grand Theft Auto. I'm going to be absolutely blasted high as hell during that. So I'm going to be driving my car slowly in Grand Theft Auto, only tepidly beating up the hooker, like not even like doing anything right. So yeah, I think he's a loser, but he's got a lot of money in the bank, Alice.
No, he does. So I mean, yes, I understand that he has money in the bank. Like I get that. So you know, and I don't think I'm like just jealous or something. That's not what I would do with my time if I had that money in the bank. Put it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that said, if that, I mean, he's making,
and it would bother me if I was married.
$200,000 a year.
He's making $200,000 a year.
Fun. And he's got like all that millions. He doesn't have to do a thing.
But he still makes his wife go to work, though. She's not invited to the video game party in the living room because he needs health care.
He's not. Well, he could probably afford his own health care, but I can see. I mean, that's the problem, Alice. Women have this feeling.
But why does she still have to go to work? That's
she doesn't. Well, women feel the
he could work. He could be a teacher and get health care, couldn't he?
Women feel the workplace gives them worth. Many men, after being in it for a while, no longer do.
I think
I would, yeah. If I was in his situation, I would probably I would do more dangerous things through death of adventure stuff. Definitely, I'd be taking Ubers around, saying hi to a lot of people. Like, it's just
you'd be like out in Boston. You'd be doing something
correct
outside of your house.
Correct.
And I don't believe he says that's all there is to do around here this time of year where I live. I don't believe there's anywhere that you can live on planet Earth where there's nothing to do that's not inside your living room.
Well, the funny thing is doing Grand Theft Auto is worse than doing nothing.
It is.
It's pretend world doing something. How was your day? Oh, pretty good. I slapped a hooker around today and managed to drive 2 other people off the road and ran over 6 pedestrians.
Flash in the chat says Tom low-key pretending he doesn't want to try the Stone GTA gamer life for at least a weekend.
There's something to that. Yeah, there's something to that. I like the idea of this automatic money coming into my bank account. I do like that. Maybe I have an account somewhere that we look
Call Find Mass Money.
Exactly. Maybe there's something over there. Else, we have a lot of things to do on the Chat Chat.
Okay, so let's head to the Chat Chat, brought to us by Chelsea Fire Wicked Hot Sauce. This is the Chelsea Fire Wicked Hotline.
This might be a little bit more venting than anything, but
okay, Steve.
When will, if ever, the school shootings stop in America? Obviously, there's been a lot since Columbine, and there was some before, obviously, but Columbine seemed to be the one that set everybody off. And I know that schools have done a better job with security, law enforcement, metal detectors, cameras, people being more proactive in alerting law enforcement of potential shootings. But when will this stuff end? I mean, it's just scary, especially when you have children going to school, that these things, as low of a risk that it is in terms of odds, may happen. And, I found myself in September asking a question of school administrators of what plans do you have in place should this happen? And, Tom, I'm sure you can relate. Our parents didn't ask those questions in the 80s, because they didn't worry about that stuff. And I just wonder how you guys handle the news when you hear it, and if it's a thought that ever crosses your mind, especially with children going to school, because every time I read something or hear something like that in the news, it obviously concerns me.
Yeah, well, I would look at SSRIs, the ingestion of kids taking mind-altering drugs prescribed legally with the help of psychologists as something to look at.
The trans movement is the tip of the iceberg of, I think people will start to realize that a lot of, particularly mental disorders, the doctors don't know what they're doing at all.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
And also that said, I would also say that there is a, going back to what we said, middle management, people who are not pragmatic, people who just put out policies to win board meetings or to feather their nest somehow, etc., or as a CYA, or just bureaucratic entrenchment like the Uvalde cops, where the cops all gathered while the kids were being massacred and kept the parents from saving their own kids. And that was like, in some other shootings, some of which I won't mention, where somehow it took the cops 9 minutes to get to schools. Somehow it's like, and then they wait for backup a few times. I mean, I know that they've come off this policy a lot. It's like common sense would tell you to get into the building and start shooting bad people immediately. But we overthink things. All these pointy head people come out of academia, and they have better idea for smarter policing. They don't know a goddamn thing about it, and so it's ridiculous. But that's one of the reasons for Trump again, where he doesn't seem like a guy who's got the nuance of, no, we need to build a force protection unit here where we can show that the shooter it's like, no, go in there, shoot the shooter in the head. Can we go get on with our day?
But I think it does get to the issue of mental health more broadly, and in particular, like we've talked about it in a few different contexts, but particularly since COVID, the deaths of despair phenomenon in this country has been off the charts. Overdoses, suicides, and that's what most school shootings are, honestly, are suicides where somebody does like an elaborate suicide,
right?
A more complex suicide, right? Most of them come from a similar place. Most are not ideological to speak of, or there's an ideological patina stuck onto something that's an underlying mental problem. I think that is a bigger issue, and actually, honestly, a lot of gun deaths are suicides. I mean, if you start to look at gun deaths as a problem as a whole, the suicides are a big part of it, and not necessarily the murders. There's essentially like three things that happen. There's these sort of more like newsy shootings, like the school shootings that you hear about that are what you think of when you say school shootings. There are suicides, and there are homicides that have to do with other crime, really, gangs, violence, like other things happening, right? And a lot of those do get lumped into school shootings in like the school shooting statistics, because that makes it look like there's more school shootings, which helps other people. But really, if you're going to talk about these ones, these go more with the suicide bucket than with the other shooting homicide bucket, to be totally honest, in terms of like causes and effects. I mean, no one wants to hear like reopen the institutions, but
right. I want to hear that. I want to hear that.
But I mean, which had a lot of their own problems, to be sure. But I think that we are dealing with a lot of issues in this country that get back to the fact that we let people not get mental health help who need mental health help.
Right. Yeah.
Not just access to it.
Right. No, there were too many psychos out
Jordan
in the streets.
Neely, who was killed on the New York subway, had plenty of access to all this help. He was into these places and out of them. He didn't want to stay at them.
He needed to go get gotten.
Yeah, he needed to be locked up, maybe not in a jail, but maybe in a place where he could be forced to get the help he obviously needed.
Right. But once again, as we talked about it, somewhere along the line, the bureaucracy talked about optionality. There needs to be optionality for him. He's not just going to the place that'll keep him locked up and safe from himself. So, no, it didn't happen.
Hey, Alice. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Rudy.
Tom, I just want to summarize some stuff, and I wish I could call in the show for my conspiracy theory friend, Joe from Simsbury. But
Yeah.
Bridgewater State Hospital, can we get that open soon? Can we?
Yeah.
And you need to be like the commissioner of it.
That's exactly what we were just talking about.
Perfect
Exactly
timing,
right.
Rudy.
Yeah,
I want to be the cold warden of the place who orders orderlies to throw people in the brig, and who a few hot inmate chicks want a dalliance with. What? Women are attracted to power, Alice.
Administrator, the warden, whatever we want to call it.
Yes.
But we'll fill it up with branch Covidians and branch drone Vidians. It is obviously there's something environmental in that area that they're sending drones for. There's no earthquake faults. There's no alien life. This is a government operation, and there's something bad out there that they're not telling us. And
some are telling us.
Joe needs to stop with his drone calls, and it's getting old. But it's definitely a cover up by our government, and I'll bet Frank's gold that's 100% environmental hazard that they're trying to find. You all have a great night.
I think that's a possibility. I also think what Joe says is a possibility. Everything is on the table.
Tom and I love stuff like this. When MH370 disappeared, we were glued to CNN for like 48
Oh yeah,
straight
Don Lemon
hours.
was beautiful, beautiful. But and so what's his name? Sanchez. It was the great guy, Rick Sanchez. Remember how great he was?
I don't.
You remember Rick Sanchez? Oh, he was great.
Hey, Tom, I don't know if you remember this, but in the 80s, there used to be Catholic groups, etc., that would, and other groups, that religious groups, that would tell their congregants, don't go see certain movies because of certain subject matter. Some who hadn't even seen the film, but just based on reviews or whatever, they would just say, you shouldn't see this because it's bad. And now here is the left, who puts its nose down towards organized religion.
Of course.
And, they're telling you, they're twisting themselves into pretzels, trying to warn you about a classic book written almost 100 years ago about a war. And when I was a kid, I remember seeing World at War on Channel 2, PBS, and it was graphic. I mean,
you know what, Dr. Cheswick? That's a great point. It's a great point. Not only that, but remember watching Wild Wild World of Animals? You don't know this because it was in the 70s, but in the 80s.
But my dad growing up loved what he was off the boat Serbian. He called them animal shows.
Right.
He always had on animal shows.
Right. And there would
There's
be
always like a deer getting torn to pieces by something.
A cheetah that would beat the crap out of a wildebeest, and then like the rest
They'd
of the
like feed off the carcass on screen.
Vicious.
Ovens, all kinds of stuff, dead bodies everywhere. This is full-time war stuff. And I don't even know if I was 10 years old yet when that came out, and it was all over the place. So yes, learning about war is tough and hard, and it's something children should learn about at a certain age, but you can't hide the graphicness of it. And in reading that book, that's a great book.
Yes.
It's
the first good book they read in
1 minute
school.
30.
You just said 1 minute 30.
First good book they read in school. I assume probably the best book the boys in the class have ever read at school. And by the way, is an anti-war book. Right? The book is not making the case that all the gruesomeness is great.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to say something that I don't know is true, but I'm going to say all the real heady, thoughtful war books are
making
really
a case against war.
Exactly. That
including going back to like the Iliad.
That this is incredible carnage and gruesome, and that it's going to end one day, and that day could be today, but the powerful people that are involved in the decision making don't want it to be today. Some of them are down the Cape, sunning themselves, but that day could be 2 days from now, and they're going to tell you that 2 days from now totally made sense. Couldn't have been last year, where all the same terms could have been satisfied. No, yeah.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Outstanding. All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm glad Sally read the whole thing. That's great. Back in the late 1970s, they assigned that book to us without any warnings of any kind. The same way they assigned April Morning by Howard Fast and a bunch of other violent books that everybody loved.
You don't know what April Morning by Howard Fast is.
Is it related to the movie April Morning?
Do you know what the movie's about?
The Battle of Lexington.
Okay.
We watched that in school.
Okay.
Because I lived in Lexington, which our daughter's also studying, incidentally.
You think I knew that book?
Probably.
No, I did not.
Oh.
But, I was going to say, I know they came out with a Netflix version of All Quiet a couple of years ago. That's German language, and it's very good. But I would encourage people to watch the 1930 version starring Lou Ayres. I know you've grown. It's black and white. But it came out before the implementation of the Hays Production Code, reining in, violent and sexual content in movies. It is a really violent war film. It is great. Check it out. Under 60.
56. He's right. I feel like I'm being mocked, but yeah, that is a. But,
we occasionally will watch a black and white movie. We really liked A Night to Remember.
Yeah, which I did read the book, by the way. Forced to Winchester High. You know what? A lot of passengers died.
Did they send home a letter to your parents explaining?
They did not. We didn't get a letter. We didn't get a letter
Titanic?
when the Challenger exploded. I just talked to a friend of mine who I graduated with high school with, went to junior high with. His kid and my kid both do karate. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about just kids now being wimps. And I said, Matt, don't you remember when the Challenger died? He said, yeah, I was in home ec. So as a matter of fact, I think I was in home ec too. And then after home ec, after the Challenger exploded, we had to go to fourth period, then fifth period. And by sixth period, all the good jokes were out across the country somehow. I had no idea how it happened, but it was amazing. Okay, but Steve said all quiet. Oh, yes, yeah. My worry, what if Sally is... What if she's loyal to the German forces in that book? Because I mean, they really humanize the Huns, right?
Well, it's written by a German, so.
Well, I understand.
I mean, yeah.
She's of German descent, Alice.
But I think.
Worry. Mm-hmm. Ready?
Yes.
Here we go.
Tom, I'm looking through the files here. Can you help me verify?
Yes.
When you got your man card back when it comes to talking about women, because I thought you lost your man card less than a year ago when you had the most ridiculous Tom Shattuck take of all time, that Paige Spiranak was fat. And I know it was a bit at the time, and she responded, which made the bit last a little bit longer. But I also thought your man card was revoked for a year. So
let the record show, Paige Spiranak, golfer, mostly model, has followed me. I talked to Paige Spiranak 8 years ago. She's followed, being a faithful follower of mine and a fan of mine for a long time. And yes, I'm sorry for what she has gotten fat. She has. She looks lovely and beautiful, and Alice still thinks that her body's better than hers because I got Alice the same outfit the Paige had on, and Alice wouldn't wear it, and she threw it at me and said, "You think I'm going to wear that when she wears that? You think I'm gonna... So I got in trouble for that. But yeah, I'm sorry. She gained weight. It's okay. Some might even say that I've gained weight. You know, believe it or not, it's okay. We don't have to lie to ourselves here.
Maybe I missed you getting your man card back, but when I saw you, talking about Sydney Sweeney, it made me wonder if we should believe you or not, because when it comes to Paige Spiranak, you were definitely a fountain of misinformation.
Incorrect.
I mean, I get it. I know it was a bit, but man, your take on Paige Spiranak, it still doesn't sit well with people.
Steve, I want you to know that my kids all say, I get it, it's a bit. Because you say it. They literally do. It wasn't a bit. Paige Spiranak gained some weight, and now she doesn't follow me anymore, which hurts.
I think she's skinnier than Sydney Sweeney.
No, she's not. No, she's not.
Yes, she is.
No, she's not.
I think she is.
Kind of different body type, but she's not.
She's definitely skinnier than me. I don't know, what we're doing here.
In places, I don't think totally. That's necessarily true.
I was listening to your most recent podcast, and I just wanted to comment, Tom, in reference to Sally and her reading a certain book for school. You said, quote, "When I was 13, I was her age." End quote. I want you to think about that for a second.
I
don't see the problem with that. I believe
Do you remember
I believe it.
when you corrected Sally for how she said she came downstairs? She was probably like 4. She came downstairs and she was like, "Oh, I bringed you this," and you said completely seriously, "This was not a bit, Steve."
It was not a bit.
Or Dr. Cheswick, you said, "Sally, it's not bringed, it's brung." Your voice just dripping with superiority as you explained to the 4-year-old that the past tense of bring is brung.
I stand by it. As a matter of fact, yes. When I was 13, I was Sally's age, as a matter of fact. Attack me. I went to Winchester High, by the way. First in my class. Ready else?
Mm-hmm.
Do this just right, so I look good.
Hey guys, Paul in the car.
Hey, Paul.
Who the heck knows what's going on with these drone things? I'm kind of on Team Tom on this.
Here we go.
But Alice, you said something yesterday that's pretty spot on. The media is more about clicks than truth. I mean that's nothing more true has been said. You remember the during those storms a couple of years ago, the media was caught filming, or the Weather Channel, I think, was caught filming, this girl in a canoe with the reporter in a canoe, and made it seem like the water was 8 feet deep, but there comes two guys walking behind, and you can tell it's only ankle deep. I mean, there's dozens of examples of that. So I would not be surprised if that's something that's going on, a la Wag the Dog. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
No, great movie
with De Niro.
You should see it out. You haven't seen it.
I remember it existed,
Hoffman.
but I
great
didn't see it.
movie. And I think that could be more of what's going on than anything else.
Great.
I
Thanks,
actually
guys.
remember when it came out on TV because it was on the cover of the cable guide.
Yeah.
The TV guide, like, that had the thing, and I asked my parents what it was because I was not familiar with the expression. I don't know what year that was.
That's what Alice is saying, by the way, that it's a Wag the Dog thing where they're trying to get the Patriot Act stuff done by putting up the spectacle.
1997. So yeah, I was 10 when that came
Paul,
out.
you are right about that. There's no doubt about that. That Alice thinks it's the same, the Wag the Dog thing. That also, that chick who reporter who was a nobody local broadcaster at that point is now somebody. It's like Kate Baldwin from CNN. It's like somebody who then got more famous because she's a cupcake.
Brooke Baldwin?
Well,
or is Kate Baldwin somebody too?
I think there's a Kate Baldwin too. Yeah, I think
I
so.
don't know who it is. Anyway, that's fine. I'll look it up for you.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Oingo Boingo's big hit that you couldn't name, Tom, was Dead Man's Party.
Yes.
And Bow Wow Wow's big hit was I Want Candy.
Oh.
And my recollection is that the lead
I
singer
do
of Bow
remember
Wow
the
Wow was
song.
an extremely beautiful young woman.
Ooh.
I remember.
And you could still, she had kind of a mohawk going too, and she was still beautiful.
Yeah.
That's how pretty she was. And you can still see that on YouTube.
Yes.
Let me just say this, and I mean this. Under 30 MFR.
That's true. Although right at the line there, I got to 30. But Bow Wow Wow, I Want Candy.
I do remember that.
Done with who's the guy who does hand jive? Hand jive. There's a word for that kind of music. Steve, you know what's that kind of music called? Hand jive. Do you know hand jive, Alice? Steve, call back tomorrow, please, and talk to us
that
about.
sounds vaguely familiar.
It's called hippity clap, clippity flap. There's a word.
Could it have been on my tape of novelty songs from the 50s and 60s?
What kind of music is hand jive? Slapstick?
Because I did have a cassette tape of novelty songs that
Rhythm and
included
blues?
like Purple People Eater and Does Your Chewing Gum Lose Its Flavor and The Name Game.
Okay, we get it, Alice. Yeah. Do you want to do you want to do you in the name game?
I was a very cool kid. I promise.
Sheila, well, man, shut up, Alice. Leave. Okay. Hi. I'm like, what, are you okay?
No. I've been attacked.
I know all about the Battle of Lexington book. I've read it.
I'm not sure if that's the same thing, but there was a movie called like April Morning, I think, right?
Yeah, there was.
Do you know that for sure?
Well, I should exclude Alice. This is a Tom call.
Go ahead.
Because I know what Tom does. I see his Instagram. You play catch with double cheeseburgers to that lovely little girl. Well, little, she ain't.
No, she's a heifer.
Pepper.
Yeah.
There was a
Pepper's gotten very big
Yes.
over the last 2 years.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And your sponsor is Awaken 180.
Mm-hmm.
It is time to quit throwing double cheeseburger fastballs to that beautiful dog and get her an Awaken 180, Tom. She's gotten big.
She's
I can't believe.
She's
Look
right
at
there.
But
It looks
her
they can see
on the
her
couch.
on the. They
She
can
looks
see
like a
her on the
Jersey
camera.
Yeah.
Rudy's saying it in the
She's
chat
getting
too.
huge.
Yeah, she's.
But then Rudy, then if she's in better shape, then she can jump the fence and run away and harass our neighbors, and then they call the police on us.
Well,
so
she can still do damage. Now she barges through stuff. It's different, but yeah, no, she is definitely huge. It's the biggest dog I've ever seen. I think.
Save that dog's life. Quit. Come on, man. Get that dog on those 2-hour walks you take with Peter Rabbit. Let her chase Peter Rabbit. Do the right thing, man.
Rudy, she's 10.
I love dogs.
She's in her twilight years. She
And
does
you
not
will
want to.
Never mind. I'll save that for Monday when I call the radio show.
Okay.
Pepper doesn't want, this is part of the problem, is she does not like to take walks. She gets halfway out on the walk, and then she starts trying to drag you back the other way.
There's a couple of things at play here, but you're right. Somebody should be walking her. First of all, she can't walk anymore because before she got this fat, she started to be old and started. If she walked 3 miles with me one day, then she'd be limping all the next day. It's a long story. I'll take anybody's advice on this stuff, though. Absolutely. But she is a fat dog. There's no doubt. She doesn't, by the way,
she wants to be a fat dog.
Yeah. If you ask her if she doesn't want me to pour bacon grease into the kibble anymore, she's going to say she wants me to pour bacon grease into the kibble. She likes, believe me, she's also a thief. She steals food from the kids all the time. There are 6 kids here.
She's a very aggressive food stealer.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
People keep mentioning E. Jean Carroll.
Yes.
And that incredibly frivolous lawsuit that was brought against Trump, a total pack of lies.
Total.
And, in fact, she can't remember the date. She can't remember where it was. She knows where. Bergdorf Goodman's dressing rooms.
Right.
But the other thing that people are not mentioning, and you could still find this, she was interviewed by Anderson Cooper on CNN, and she said, I think rape, you're putting bad connotations on rape. I think rape is sexy.
Yeah. And then he went to break.
I mean, Trump ought to be able to go back. I mean, I guess it's a civil suit. You can't
the judge would
do anything about it, but this is like classic railroading, as is the freaking Bragg case. Anyway.
The
under
judge would allow,
60.
The judge allowed none of that. And not only that, but he wouldn't let the fact that she went on the cover of a magazine with a certain dress on and said, this is the dress I was wearing at the time that didn't exist at the time.
Right.
She's got all sorts of stuff wrong with this story.
No, she just made something up. Yes. I could be like, oh, Joe Biden raped me once in a supermarket 20 years ago. And that's the level of ridiculousness that case was.
I just say it's a fight. That way I'm not the victim, right? I'm not the victim.
You don't feel like a victim? I was not thrown on the ground and ravished, which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt. But I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not. I think most people think of rape as being sexy. Let's take a short break. Think of the fantasies. We're going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more.
The funny thing is, if you were any kind of reporter in entertainment, that's precisely when you would not be taking a break. You'd be saying, blow out the break. You
mean the fantasy that you made up about Donald Trump?
Well, exactly.
Basically?
A quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side. You're fascinating to talk to.
I mean, who are we kidding? Jesus. Who are we kidding? But that's one of the reasons why I believe that there's a reset happening right now. Because, who are we kidding? First of all, and also, he just didn't, okay? Freaking break. Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. Oh, sorry. Let's start again. Oh, sorry. I'm new with faders.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. And the chat is also calling Pepper fat, but and we appreciate advice on dogs.
Advice that doesn't
put us out very much.
Exactly, like a pill that you might have that you can send us.
Do they have Ozempic for dogs?
Yeah.
No, but Pepper's living her best life. To be honest, I think she likes her life, kind of.
I guess. Let's move on, Alice.
Okay, appreciate it all, you guys. See you tomorrow.